Hey, what's up, guys? It's Benson here with another drawing video. And this is the second video I've posted recently because I had quite a busy year and just haven't had a lot of time for art or music or all the things that I want to be doing, especially on this channel. But it's been a really good year. As I mentioned in the last video, I got married. We got a dog. She's over on the couch napping. My puppy. She's so sweet. And we got this house. New job roles. It's been a lot of change for my wife and I, which has been awesome. But it's been a long time since I've picked up my iPad and drawn. So I thought, hey, I really want to grow this YouTube channel and just put stuff out there, and hopefully, make stuff that encourages other people to do what they enjoy and create stuff and share it and the way that a lot of people have inspired me. So I thought I better actually start posting some art videos. Hopefully I can stick with it. Let me know if you like this format because I've got a new setup. Actually, in this video, I haven't used it yet, but now I have like a tripod that can go over my shoulder. It's a lot easier than what I had to do with balancing the camera to get this over the shoulder shot. It's still taking me a long time to draw, though. That's why this is actually at 600% speed because it took me a few hours. But as you saw from the thumbnail, this is like a skull king or like a skeleton king, which is a design that I really like. I've seen similar designs all over the place from a lot of really cool tattoo artists, and I thought, hey, I'd love to try and draw something similar to that. So it kind of reminds me of Lord of the Rings, like the ring wraiths, right? With the crown, the spiky crown like that, and the skeleton face. It's awesome. Anyway, it ended up turning out pretty cool. Obviously, there's things I would do differently, and that's why I thought I'd film these videos. A, it encourages me to actually draw, but B, I can share the things that I learn, the mistakes I make, and just ideas that I have generally on my mind. So we've got just the rough shape. I always kind of start with, when it comes to like a face or something, with like a circle, and then and kind of like, you can look up the Loomis method if you've never heard of that, but this is a very sort of abstract head. It's like a 3/4 angle skull that's very stylized, and I'm looking at a few references as I'm drawing this just on my phone to get some ideas. Like, I had no idea how to approach something like chainmail, for example, in like a traditional or like old school tattoo style. And I have a few ideas about what I would do differently, which I'll talk about later. But overall, I think it was a great little project here for me to take on. Oh, by the way, you'll see me using like that little glove thing. It's just something that I got so that my hand can kind of more smoothly glide on the iPad, because I have some of that fake paper texture stuff on my iPad. And I just find that your hand catches and you can't really do lines very easily on it. It's kind of frustrating. So having like a drawing glove like that, it helps a bit. You definitely don't need it, but sometimes I wear it. And same with the grip that I have on my Apple Pencil there. I'm not trying to sell anything, so just look up whichever one looks like a best deal to you if you want that, but it's not really that essential. One thing that's a little bit annoying about the grip is that you can't, obviously you have to take it off to charge the Apple Pencil if you have the type of iPad that uses a magnet. So you kind of have to keep these things somewhere else. You can't really easily take them around with you. Anyway, that's just for anyone who's curious. The one thing that I am selling and will plug shamelessly is the brush set that I'm using to make these videos, which some of you have purchased and have it's gone over great. Actually, people have reached out to me and said that it's working great, and that's really nice to hear, because I initially made these brushes because I wanted something that would let me create art with the kind of style of a spit shade or watercolor tattoo flash sheet. And any options I saw out there were either too expensive or just didn't look organic at all, right? They didn't look the way that real paper does, and I wanted that texture and tools that felt good in the hand to use. So I ended up making this and ended up learning how to make brushes and post it on my website at what I hope is a very reasonable price for anyone who wants to support me. You can check that out in the link below. But I always start out with like a pencil layer. It's the pencil that comes with my kit. It's just like I like to use blue for the first layer and then red for the second one. There's no right or wrong way to do that. But I use pencil for the first layer, and then I use this stabilized refining brush just to commit a little bit more to where I want the lines to be, and continue to refine the design and just build up the layers like that. And then once I'm all done with the red layer, then I'll go and I'll add like a permanent marker style layer for the line work. So I'm just moving the design around, trying to find a good spot. Like, because the face is off center here, if I actually put the thing in the center, it's like the face is way too far to the left. So I moved the whole design off center so that the face felt a little bit more centered, if that makes sense. Here I'm actually using like that trick on Procreate where you can make perfect lines and then tap your finger off, on a different part of the screen to make them perfectly vertical. It will automatically snap the line to the nearest 45-degree angle. And I don't usually like to use like the shape, whatever that smart object tool or whatever it's called, I can't remember. I like to have a little bit more of an organic feel, like a hand drawn feel to my art. But in this case, I thought I want all of the spikes on the crown to be parallel. So it's just easier. In real life, you might get out a ruler or something like that if you're doing this on paper, but it's just easy here to use that tool. And you could always throw up the grid too. Like, that's another tool that this has. You can throw a grid up and use that to help you create parallel lines. It's a great tool, but overall, I generally just like to freehand stuff. Here I'm like deciding, do I want the eyes to be round? Do I want them to be angular? And I went with something kind of in between. And these are the things that, as you continue to draw, or as I continue to draw, you reinforce, different patterns in your brain. And the more often that you try things and learn from them, whether in a positive or negative way, the better off you are, the better able you are next time to make that decision quicker. So here's another example of me just freehanding these circles. Like, I could totally just use like the smart, again, I can't remember what it's called, but I could make these circles perfect by just creating them, and then before I let go of the brush, keep it held down and then put my other finger somewhere on the screen so that it snaps to a perfect circle. But I don't want to do that. I want it to look kind of folky and natural. So that's just my preference. That's kind of the whole idea. I love making things look a little bit analog while still maintaining the digital, the digital convenience that modern technology allows. And I think I talked about that in my last video, that I realized that, with my interest in editing digital photos to look like film photos, or editing audio to sound like it's, analog recordings, I've realized that's kind of my thing. That's a big part of what you'll see on this channel will be, how can you create whatever you want to create in a way that feels like it has character, the character that a lot of analog stuff has, while still maintaining all the modern conveniences of digital. Anyway, that was kind of me rambling for a long time about my brush set, but here I'm moving on to the paint brush portion. And shading is like the most important thing, I think, for this style. With an actual tattoo, you use like whip shading, where you kind of whip. Typically, the style would use whip shading to kind of whip the needle away from the skin as you go to create a gradient. With spit shading, you tend to use ink or paint, and then use a second brush. That's your spit shade brush, your water brush, that you would either have literally in your mouth, where you control the amount of spit on it, so you can control the moisture of it, or you could use water, but it's a little bit less control over it, and you would kind of blend out the edges of the ink that you've just put down while it's still, before it's dried, and create these nice gradients. So that's the look that I tried to go for when I was designing this brush set. And here I am adding color, which is something that's newer to me. Before recently, I really had only dabbled in like black and gray mostly with Flash. I haven't had much success with color, and I don't love the way that these colors look. I do like the way that the paintbrushes look, though. I think I may have mentioned that I like to keep the opacity on the brushes down a bit. So if you look at like the crown there, you'll see some spots are a little bit darker than others, and it really looks more like a real paintbrush or marker. That way, where when the brush overlaps itself, it's just slightly darker and more saturated. But I end up not really liking the yellow. Like, it's a beautiful yellow because it's like very traditional, very bold. But I felt like it just wasn't. This design needed something a bit more metallic feeling, a bit more, a bit less saturated and kind of darker. So later on, you'll see I just color grab and color drop more of a brown type of gold color for the crown and the border of the chainmail there, and I just end up liking it more. But first, I'm experimenting with these bright, vivid colors and seeing how they work. Same thing with the skull. You can see I've made it like a cream color there. I end up changing my mind about that, and I'm glad that I did, because I think leaving the skull white ended up making it one of the few like white parts of the design, or transparent parts of the design, or if you're tattooing this, skin toned parts of the design, which just makes it stand out. And you want to be intentional. I talked about it in my last video, something I've learned. You want to be intentional about where you're where you're putting the most contrast in your design. So here, the cheekbones, I end up shading more and more and more throughout this video, because it just ends up making the face look so much more three-dimensional. The more shadow I put underneath that cheekbone, the more it pops out and looks, it just catches your eye more, and it brings the focus towards the face. So I keep adding a lot more shading as I go. I'm trying some brown shading here, which I end up not really liking, but the idea is, like, a lot of times with traditional portraits or faces or pinups, a lot of times the perimeter of the person will be shaded with like a brown, which can look really, really nice. In the case of the skull here, it didn't really make a lot of sense, and it just didn't look good, but there's no loss from trying. That little gap there was just because my camera died, so I didn't get to show the part where I shaded it in with more of a light gray. But I definitely think that looks a bit better. And as I said, I'll continue to add more and more black, and just keep realizing that, hey, it looks better the more black I add here. But the one challenge that I end up with later on, you'll see in the video, is that when I keep adding black under the crown like this, it kind of obscures the eyes. And the eyes are the most important part of almost any design. So if you have too much shadow under the crown, you can't really see where the left and right sides of the eyes are, and just obscuring stuff like that, it creates a cool effect, I guess, in something spooky like this, but it also is generally safe to say, I think, that our brains don't love ambiguity, and part of the appeal of these designs in their simplicity is that they are instantly recognizable. And so you want to be intentional about any ambiguity you have in your design. And if you want people to, focus on the face and the eyes, you need to make sure that they have a lot of contrast, which is why later on I decide that I like the black shadow. So the solution I come up with is to make the eyes red, which kind of mirrors the look of the hood, like below the chin there. It's like a red gradient, which is cool. It's like gives it like a glowing effect almost, especially because that red is so much more vibrant than any of the other colors in the design. I thought I'd do a gold tooth, just kind of fun. Just adds a little bit of asymmetry to the design, since there's 8 teeth there. Having one of them be gold is just kind of fun. And I added some like discoloration to the teeth with that rust color, but I end up backtracking on that and getting rid of it because I don't love it. So here I am just playing around with what color looks best on the trim on the hood there. One challenge that I end up with this red jewels is that a lot of these colors make it look like pizza, right? Like if you have like, a yellow or kind of orangey trim with red or pink jewels, it looks like pepperoni, which at least that's how I saw it, and I didn't love that. So I ended up changing it to be like achromatic like this with like a light gray, and it looks a little bit more metallic that way. It matches the chainmail a little bit more, and that's just one of the great things about drawing on an iPad, is that you can try stuff, and you can easily just compare and every possible option that you could imagine and see which one appeals to you the most. So it's like cheating in that way. But as I was saying earlier, that trial and error is exactly how you reinforce pathways in your brain. That's how you learn. This whole idea of like it takes 10,000 hours to master something, it really depends on how often you're coming up against a decision, and how often you can make a decision and learn from it, and then recall that information in the future. Right? That's the process of learning. So the more that something like this, a digital drawing, lets me experience success and failure and make a subconscious mental note of that, the better equipped I am in the future when I run up against a similar problem to think, hey, I think I know what to do about this. So these eyes, I just wanted to play around with the shading and see if I could make them even more contrasty or even more glowy. Like I thought maybe if I added a little bit more shading around them, it would the gradient would make them look more like a flame almost. And same with that white dot in the middle. I thought it would kind of just give it a little bit more focus, and it was fine, but I prefer just the red with the shadow on top that is kind of a counterbalance to the hood, because the gradient is going the opposite direction almost, like from top to bottom on the eyes and then bottom to top from the hood. But I'm overanalyzing things a bit. That's kind of what happens when I have a video this long that I just have to talk over. By the way, let me know if you like this format, because it's probably easier if I just do a voiceover, but I wanted to do a couple of videos like this and see what people think. One issue that I think I mentioned earlier, and it just showed up a few seconds ago in the video there, is that the crown, I put these X's across the headband portion of the crown, and I didn't really think about this, but in order for me to be able to fill them in where every opposite diamond that is formed is a different color, the intersections of the lines have to be of an equal height with the headband, if that makes sense. If you don't know what I'm saying, you can just rewind and see the part where I tried filling every other box in brown and why it didn't work, because I didn't really think about the fact that as I was putting those lines in, like I did all the leftward slanting lines first and then all the rightward ones, and I wasn't paying a lot of attention to where they intersect, and so it ended up kind of trailing up off the edge of the hat there, or the brim of the crown, whatever you'd call that, and that's something I would do different. And that was like a big takeaway for me was, hey, I got to pay attention to where X's intersect if I'm going to do something like that in the future. Same thing with this chainmail, the design. Those little lines that I have, like those C's and backwards C's that make up the chainmail, all those close together lines, I think would be way too close together if you were to tattoo this, and I think it would be like really, it wouldn't heal well. It'd be a lot of trauma. It would just be not a great approach to doing the chainmail. So if I was going to do it again, I would have like the horizontal rows a little closer together and have the vertical links of the chainmail further apart and curved more, so they're more like actual chainmail. But this still gave a kind of cool, kind of spiral-y look that I don't hate. But it was something that I thought of afterwards, was like, hey, I have to be mindful if if I'm gonna be designing this in the future as like tattoo flash kind of stuff, you have to be aware of how close together you're putting lines. So yeah, I tried adding a little bit of coffee stain in the background. I didn't like how it looked. So there it is. That's the finished design. I'll zoom in a bit so you can see like the paper texture and stuff that that this brush set kind of emulates, and all the imperfections that come with it are part of the style. It's part of what I like. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks so much for watching and supporting my channel. You can check out the brush set on my website, which is Bensen.Creates.com. And I totally encourage you to go out there and do something that you love, create something cool. And I'm wishing you all the best. So yeah, thanks for watching. Take care.